Welcome to another episode of the Mindful Runner podcast. This is the series where we speak to the MacMac 200 miler participants. MacMac 200 miler is, without a doubt, the toughest ultra run in South Africa. It's probably one of the toughest in the world. And today I'm joined by Jarryd James. Jarryd is a novice to this particular race, to the 200 mile distance. And he's got some fascinating stories to tell us about his preparation and about what motivates him. Hey, Jarryd.
Hi, Fred.
Tell us a bit about your running background and why you decided to run the MacMac 200.
So I've been running now for a couple of years. I actually got into running to help me find discipline through some dark times that I went through, having just matriculated and being introduced to an awesome bunch of guys, but unfortunately bad influences on myself. I really struggled to say no, and I quickly found myself quite deep into drugs and alcohol. Although I could study and do well at university, I always used gym as a mask to, mask my bad habits that sort of started out when I was just going out on weekends. I was quite involved in cats and cocaine. Parents never knew anything about it up until only sort of towards the end of the chapter. But I knew a guy, Shlomi, personal trainer at Virgin Active in Sunningham, a great guy that I'm still very close with, and he definitely is a good mentor to me. But I used to know that this guy did comrades, and I would always go to the gym, chat to him, and he would tell me about comrades, and it definitely intrigued me. I used to have to kind of make sure that every Saturday morning after I had gone out to a club or whatever with my friends and I'd gotten back, 3, 4, sometimes not even had slept, still full of cocaine and alcohol, meet my parents downstairs for a cup of coffee and go off to the park run. And I think because I was doing that, I thought to myself that, they would never think that their son would have been out the whole night before using cocaine and would have any issues. I would do the park run, and then I sort of slowly started, wondering whether if I had stopped the drugs the night before, if I could do 2 laps. And so I sort of stopped and I would go and I would be able to do 2 laps. And yeah, it felt relatively good. So I always knew that there was this thing that I really wanted to try and pursue, but still at the time, I was very dependent on what people thought about me. I struggled a lot with sort of being able to say no. I was very insecure, and I found an alter ego when I used to go out and drink and take drugs that I actually couldn't really find, I was sober. And I loved the attention, and one thing sort of led to the other. So I started getting into selling drugs, where I started selling prescription drugs. And at that stage, I was selling not a lot of stuff, Xanors, Valium. But then my dealer started offering me more hard stuff. And one day he phoned me and said to me, listen, I've got a shipment of Xanax coming in. I want to come and collect some and see what you can do with it. And he always used to include testers in the shipment that I picked up. So I had, very stupidly and irresponsibly driven a lot of the time on substances. And this particular Friday, I went and picked up the shipment of Xanax from the Virgin Active in Morningside, and I had taken 2 Xanax. I don't remember much that happened that afternoon. I had a couple of deliveries that I had to do. Long story short, I was involved in a car accident. The guy that I was involved in the car accident with had noted that I was under the influence, but it was a minor car accident. It wasn't a big one. I was able to drive away from the accident scene after doing all the paperwork and whatnot, and I should have gone and done the right thing and gone to the police station and done the accident report, but I still had deliveries to do, and that time I felt like I was very much untouched. I hit 2 potholes that night in the course of that evening of doing the deliveries, and the car was stationary. It wasn't able to be moved. I was on some dark alley in Joburg, and a tow truck driver had managed to find me. And he said to me, listen, bud, you need help. What's your situation? And I told him, this is what I've gone through. I gave him my dad's number, and that was basically the start of the end. He phoned my dad, and I very quickly found myself getting back to my house with my parents and two best mates there having a proper intervention. And that evening, they both said to me, listen, Jarryd, we're very easily happy to let you go. Yeah, I knew that I really had it in me to sort out myself. And I started running and doing Ks, led to doing marathons. I was then introduced to an amazing group of people, the Maverick Triathlon Club, that introduced me to, what endurance sports is all about. And I became fascinated with the people there at that club. I saw these guys as my idols and my heroes. Every single Wednesday I went to track, and Friday I did hills, and that was basically my life for 3-4 years.
Mm.
And my one friend, Brian from Sunninghill Striders, phoned me and he said to me, listen, bud, I want to do UTD 100K. Would you want to pace me? And I said to him, I'd love to do that. I've never, ever really experienced anything, any races like that of that nature. I've sort of been hanging around some of the local trail runs. So, to be exposed to a race like UTD and, really seeing the mountains for the first time, I said to him, 100% I'd be keen. And then about like 4 weeks before the race, I realized that I would have to have someone drop me off where I would have to pick up Brian. I wasn't able to drive myself to that point, pace him, and then there was no way for me to get back to my car. So I phoned him and I said to him, listen, Brian, I'm not going to be able to come and pace you because I'm by myself and I need someone to drop me off. So he said to me, well, how's your training been? And I said to him, it's been fine, done a couple of miles. So he said, intern, do the whole thing with me. And that was my first taste to, if I can say, ultra running.
Yeah.
That was in April. And then I basically decided then and there that I was going to do the Kloof 100 miler that September. And that was probably about 4 years ago. And that was when I was introduced to Marius. And obviously, as an amateur to doing a 100 miler, you sort of chat to everyone there, and my eyes were open and I just was exposed to something that I'd never ever really experienced before. Hearing guys doing multi 100 milers in a year, where I've come from a triathlon background where doing 2 marathons a year is kind of frowned upon. And then I think that just led to me being fascinated by the group of people that sort of get involved in these ultra runs.
They are a fascinating bunch, that's for sure. And Marius is a little bit of an outlier. The rest of us are not running every 100 miler in the year.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
That's just an incredible story, Jarryd, to have come through what you did and be back. Do you think, though, that you've replaced one addiction with another? Isn't that always the question when people, because a lot of people, recovering addicts, find that ultra running is a good thing for them. What's your perspective on that?
I don't think so. I've always been very keen on health and fitness. And even during my days when I was in university and I was using a lot of cats and cocaine, I would always make the time to go to the gym and really look after myself. I think for me, the biggest thing is just having discipline, having a purpose and putting my kid out every night and knowing that I wake up in the morning and I start my day off with intent. And that discipline that I get from running, it certainly helped me massively. I mean, when I try to stop drugs and alcohol, I pretty much did it all by myself. And I just went and read so many books about addiction and how you overcome addiction and reframing. Because my biggest problem is that I struggled with who I was I wasn't comfortable with who I was. And for a long time, being able to go out and people know me as this partying guy who's always life of the party is now saying no to alcohol. I struggled with that sort of identity crisis. And I'm always careful in overcommitting to my runs. I always try and, have a balance and integrate the rest of my family with the habit, because I'm very aware of, how dangerous running can be. The reason why I started running, to find that happiness and that discipline, I never want to lose that by doing too much running and overcommitting myself. Unfortunately, I think endurance sports it can be a very unhealthy addiction. And, I'd love to have running in my life for, years to come.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think having balance is really important.
So touched on a really important word there. Just hear Kipchoge, his phrase, only the disciplined are truly free. And it's when you are disciplined that you realize the freedom in that discipline, right? It is just,
Correct.
Things are much easier. You're not constantly looking for motivation or ways to do things. It's just like, that's my routine. I have a discipline and I'm going to do it.
100%.
So what's your biggest question or your biggest fear going into this race? What do you think it is?
I think just off the bat, from sort of, mile 100, having done a couple of 100-milers and finishing, it's one thing, but going into the unknown of that second 100 miles. I remember when I did the George 100-miler last year, it was sort of the first time where you could start feel that sleep deprivation was starting to play with me a little bit. I've never really hallucinated and any of that stuff. So yeah, it's an uncertainty. I think the unknown, eat care, nutrition, like you always hear of palate fatigue on the longer stuff. Look, I definitely have no shortage of passion when it comes to doing something like Mac 200. I think that you sort of have to just take on the challenge with a very open mind and not be hard on yourself. I think you have to really celebrate the small victories. And to be honest with you, like just rocking up on that start line in 2 weeks' time is a victory in itself.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's something, not many people get the privilege of being able to go and do a 200-mile run. And I really want to just, make the most of it, whether it's the lead up to the race, getting there, seeing everyone that's doing the race with me and just making the most of it. Yeah, it's an incredible experience to be able to go and do,
How's your training gone? And did anything surprise you about the training that you did do compared to what you've done in the past?
I definitely think mileage, having worked with Marius now for a few months, it's been amazing to see that my body has been responding so well to the high miles. I definitely had 1 or 2 weekends where, you could feel that the body was tired. But I think the overall sort of conditioning that I've had over the last few years in the gym and doing lots of strength work has allowed my body to absorb the mileage and definitely help with injury prevention. Yeah, I've kept a lot of my speed intervals as well into my program, which I was really happy about. I'm definitely more, on more focused on the shorter distances. I've often heard when guys do the longer stuff, they do lose that top end speed. Still being able to hold a lot of the speed during my 3-minute on and 2-minute off intervals, where I'm still at sort of sub 4 minute a K for those intervals. It's nice to see, because I wasn't sure how my body would respond after doing a run like Mac. I know, like with Ryan Sands, when he did the Himalayas tour, he said that his body just was never the same after that expedition. And I think at least knowing that now with the training, I can still have that speed. It's giving me hope to, after Mac, still being able to, race in the shorter distances.
During your training, do you have any firsts, any in the build-up, like longest runs, first night runs, any of that kind of thing?
So I was laughing in December when I was at the beach, but I took this book down to the beach on feet care. And I said to my wife, not many people are probably sitting here on the beach reading a book about how to look after your feet.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a first. And then I went and did my own little backyard ultra at De Wilt, which was lots of fun. We got a whole lot of our friends to come with, and really make the weekend out of that. That was awesome. And I think the weekend in Clarence, it was the first time where I've truly gone away and had a proper training camp and experienced what a training camp is, going and doing like 2 long back-to-back runs and immersing myself truly in a running weekend, and not really having anything to worry about, having my wife help me with all the odds and ends, and living and experiencing what it feels like, what I'm sure some of the pros in America and that go and, experience when they go and spend weeks up in Colorado. So that was very, very cool. And then I think the people that I've met, being introduced to icons of the sport, certainly Nikki, from Marius, and like Matt Dove, good friend of mine who helped me a lot last year, and he had done the double Everest thing early on in this year. And I think just being exposed to people that have done incredible endurance feats, and knowing that I'm also now going to go and take on something that's extreme, it makes you look at yourself differently,
Yeah.
So that's been quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what always strikes me about, especially the ultra endurance sports people, and those who've been around for a while, is the level of humility, but at the same time arrogance, this confidence in their ability, but also the humility that they know the very next race, Mother Nature could give them such a smack that they'd be back on their bums feeling sorry for themselves.
No, exactly. And I think it's the only sport where no matter how hard you train, whatever has happened up until that rest, that gun goes, it's irrelevant. I mean, you could have had the most perfect training block, that when the run starts, there's things that are going to happen that you don't know that are going to happen. So it's like approaching it with confidence, but also truly respecting the distance, and I think respecting your body as well, knowing that that shit can hit the fan, and that finish is not guaranteed. Just knowing that you've done your best, and I think being patient with yourself. And if that means taking a few hours at an aid station to catch up on rest, or having to stop to look after your feet, you got to work together with your body, and you can't have this massive ego. I think it's easy to come across as very confident when you're in a group of runners and someone asks you what run are you training for, and you say a 200 miler. You feel like you're a champion. But you have to realize that you have to be humble, because only until you finish that run are you truly a 200 miler finisher. And I mean, it takes a few times to master that distance. So yeah, I think just being present and enjoying the process.
Nothing is given. You've certainly got to earn it out there.
Yeah.
But if you knew you could do it, then there wouldn't be a challenge.
Exactly, 100%.
Let's talk strategy. How are you approaching your race? What's your race plan? How are you going to pace it? Your sleep, your nutrition. You don't have to give away any secrets, but what's your basic strategy?
Basic strategy is definitely be on top of my nutrition. Fortunately, I am a massive food lover, and I haven't had any issues in the past with eating. Definitely setting the time to 30-minute feeds will be very important for me, and trying to keep up on my hydration as well, making sure that I get my tailwind in every hour. Obviously, it's uncertain. I don't know how my body will respond. I've only really had tailwind for 37 hours. I don't know what's going to happen after that. So I'm either going to get really over tailwind or I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what advice can you add with that?
No, that's all you can do. Keep on going until it doesn't work anymore, and then have the backups and have the alternates there. I think me personally, I have two different. I'm going to be using Tailwind because it's on the tables, and so it makes sense. Yeah. But I'm also going to have Morton's, and I'm going to have some 32 GI stuff there, but doing the same function, just different tastes and slightly different textures. Yeah. And I'll cycle through those until they no longer work, because there will come a point at which you can't take them in anymore. And hopefully it's just after you finish the race, but you've got to deal with the situation at hand, I think.
Certainly stay on top of my nutrition and hydration. I think with regards to sleep, look, I've obviously got a plan for where I would like to sleep. Obviously, it's not probably going to happen that way. Leaning towards, trying to get the necessary rest before it's too late. I've got a sort of idea when I should be sleeping, just before I go and drop off that steep drop off. I think from what I've heard, once you get sleep deprived, it's very hard to come back. And sometimes I know from past experiences that I always would be on top of my nutrition and maybe have too much nutrition, then hit the wall, bonk, and try and recover after that. So I may take on the same strategy with my sleep, where if I come through a certain point and I'm feeling that, listen, I can either push on or I could probably close my eye for a couple of minutes, I think that I would prefer to be in a position where, I do take a bit of rest for a couple of minutes and then be in a position where down the line, hopefully it will help me, day 3 and day 4. I think in terms of strategy, really managing myself, not worrying about how slow my fastest mile is, but just getting each mile in as consistently as possible and not blow myself up in the first lap and try and recover. Just manage myself, be easy on myself.
Yeah.
Hold a consistent pace, not be too hard on myself either. Like if I go through a section and it doesn't go according to plan, not really worrying about it too much and, just saying to myself, listen, you've still got a couple of days. Don't get overexcited. It's when I went to the Mac training camp, Fricky said to me, the one thing you have to have is patience. And you're in it for the long run. What you do, obviously the race starts on the Wednesday. What you do on the Wednesday and the Thursday is going to help you on the Friday and the Saturday.
Yeah.
It's the same as a marathon. What you do in the first half will either make or break your second half. So it's easy to get carried away. Someone that often struggles to hold back, I got to have a long, hard think about it and know what my strategy is and, where I want to be at a certain time. And if someone goes ahead of me and I think that I could probably be with them, I have to be disciplined and say to myself, listen, I've got a plan, try to stick to the plan as best that I can.
In the light of day now, when you're planning and you're putting your strategies together, first of all, you're going to have an A, B, and C type scenario. You'll plan for what the potential problems are that'll come up and how you'll handle them. That's what you need to do on Friday morning when the wheels are coming off. You need to do what you planned in the cold light of day, not what you think you should do after not having slept for 48 hours and you're dog tired and your brain's not even working properly. That's a bad time to be trying to think your way out of a problem. So think through all of those potential problems, how you're going to solve them, so that you have to do less cognition because, the brain doesn't work. You'll get into an aid station and somebody will go, do you want Coke, coffee, cream soda, or tea? And you're like, I don't know. Just give me one.
The one thing that helped me a lot in George last year was for my aid stations, putting different items, grouping different items together in Ziploc bags and then putting that into my drop bag. So obviously Mac makes use of 2 stations where you go through them 4 times each. And what I've done is per drop bag, I have 1 big Ziploc bag. And then I basically have smaller Ziploc bags that has my sock change kit, my race food, which is my Tailwind, call it my recovery kit, a Tailwind recovery build, and a 32 GI race porridge, which I had when I was in George. That helped me get food down if I wasn't hungry, but it has a lot of carbs and protein in it. So removing the process of making decisions, putting everything exactly what I need into the Ziploc bag. So I know when I get to an aid station, okay, I'm at Mac Hut 2, I go straight to my drop bag, I pull out that Mac Hut 2 drop bag, and then in there, it's clearly organized. I know exactly what I need when, and using that same strategy also for my hydration pack, where I know in my left pocket, it's always the miscellaneous accessories. So like my tablets, my cell phone charger, my sunscreen, my chafing cream, my lip ice, wet wipes. In the right pocket, always keeping my food. So my 2 bags of biltong, my 2 bags of potatoes, and not ever getting those 2 mixed up. So I know when I'm tired and I'm not in it, right side, always food. If I need lip ice, left pocket. I don't have to be searching around for everything. And I think that'll help. I mean, it definitely has helped me in the past.
It certainly sounds like you got it all together from a planning and strategy point of view. Your gear setup, what's that look like? Are you going minimalist or are you going full prepper, everything?
So I'll have the bare essentials. I'll have in my emergency kit my thermal longs, my waterproof pants, my thermal top, my base layer, beanie, and scarf. Those miscellaneous goods that I chatted about. So, the lip ice, chafing cream, sunscreen, all of that stuff in the right pocket, and in the left. With regards to what food I'm going to be carrying, it's just the basic stuff, which works very well for me. Biltong, potatoes, and sandwiches. I'll have one sandwich in either behind the bladders with my biltong and my potato in my right pocket. 2 headlamps, batteries for the headlamps, and a space blanket. I did actually go and buy the new Solomon hydration pack, and I realized that it's actually, from what I heard, it's got challenges. Obviously, I mean, Solomon is an amazing brand, and they put that thing together with an idea and a plan. And yes, maybe it doesn't have the thing for the rain jacket, and the pockets at the back are a little bit different, but after playing around with it, it actually makes you not bring everything that you need, and just the base, so I'll definitely try and move as light as possible. I don't want to be carrying any unnecessary stuff. Carrying that backpack on your back for like 4 days can be a long time. Just, having the basics and not overcomplicate.
You've been coached by Marius over the last while. Have you picked the brains of any other 200 milers, and what advice have you taken from those guys?
What actually happened, the reason how I got into Mac 200 is that when I was at my friend's bachelor's last year, he's friends with someone that knows Richard Snitter, the guy that did Mac last year, the 21-year-old.
Yeah, I know.
I had just finished George 100 miler, and this guy was saying to me, I know his friend's doing the 200 mile at the moment. And I said, oh, Hector, can I have Vok's number? And after chatting to him, that was when I realized that I can probably do this. And certainly I've spoken to him plenty of times. I'm actually going for a run with him on Saturday where we'll chat about a couple of tips and secrets. Nikki, I've briefly spoken to her, and then, having Matt Dove help me last year and chatting to me about some of the stuff that he's done in Europe, and being exposed to the ultra scene, and just really that you got to have massive balls to do this stuff. And there's no other way to put it. They've certainly helped me with, advice on the end of the run. I think it's one thing reading strategies to do a 200 miler, but it's another thing chatting to someone that's been there at hour 85, where you just have lost all sense of like consciousness, and you just marching
forward.
So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least they've been able to give me a bit of advice.
Yeah, it's always worth talking to the people who've been there. Obviously you have to run your own race, so you know yourself better than anybody else, but it definitely makes sense. Okay, let's talk mindset and your own expectations. What does success look like for you at this race?
Honestly, finishing happy. So I'm very limited in the races that I choose to do in a year. I only really have maybe 1 or 2 big races in a year, and I approach every run like it's a blank canvas. And by the end of that prep, when I start the run, look up at my canvas that I've so-called painted with memories, colors, whatever. And I want that canvas to look the most beautiful canvas that I've ever seen. Just knowing that I'm there on that start line and that it's been a good prep and a good build-up makes me happy. Truly being able to go and express yourself on the run, it's a privilege, whether that means winning the run or coming last. For me, I just want to cross that finish line and be as happy as I was before I started that run.
That sounds perfect to me. You don't need anything more than that.
No, exactly.
Let's talk about what you think your biggest personal quality is going to be in helping you get across that line with a smile on your face.
I think being present and managing my lows. I've got a little piece of paper that I write down a couple of mantras that I take with me. One of the mantras is embrace the highs and manage the lows. And for every low, there's a high. And I think you just got to remind yourself every time when you're out there and you're feeling absolutely shit that no matter how shit that low feels, I promise you, in a couple of moments, whether it's like 10 minutes or maybe 5 hours, there will be a high. Just trying to be present in every moment, not make bad decisions. The one and only race that I've ever dropped out of was UTD 100K a few years ago. And I made the bad mistake of phoning my mom halfway through the run, telling her that I think that I'm dying. And obviously, every mother is going to be very quick to say, no, my love, you have to stop. You can't be doing this to yourself. So I learned from that run that what you predict, what you say to others is what others take from you. So, if you're feeling like shit and if you're tired, at the end of the day, I signed up to do this run because I wanted to challenge and test myself. Yes, I'm going to be tired. Yes, I'm going to feel like shit. But choosing your words wisely, because your crew only know you. They only know the best of you and they want the best for you. So if you come in there and you say, oh, I'm feeling like shit, I've had the worst day, whatever. Unfortunately, your crew will often maybe say, Jarryd, yes, you look like shit. Why don't you try and pull out? I mean, why are you doing this to yourself? And you don't want that to happen. So, I think just keep saying to yourself, everything is going to be fine. Yes, maybe I vomited and, my stomach's not good, but yeah, there's worse things that can happen. And at the end of the day, I'm the one that signed up for the run and I'm the one that's taken on this responsibility. A lot of money, a lot of time has gone into it. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's you want to enjoy the whole thing. Like, yes, it's a race and, yes, it's 200 miles, but truly, if you can walk away and you can say to yourself that was an epic 5-day journey and you have photos and memories, for me to frame the medal and put a lacquer photo of myself there with my wife, that would be cool.
Is there a small part of you that is secretly looking forward to things going wrong, just to prove yourself?
I mean, I haven't really thought of, I hope things don't go wrong. But look, I think at some stage things probably will go wrong. And it will really be up to me to, I think, as I've said, stay in the moment and stay present, because you're going to have to problem solve. You're going to have to problem solve very quickly. I guess looking back, maybe if you asked me this after the run, I could say I was proud of myself, how I did handle things when things went wrong. But, I think definitely if I can cross that finish line and I've had a good run and nothing did go wrong, I'd be very chuffed. But also if I cross the finish line and things did go wrong and I'd have to problem solve, I think as an ultra runner, I can definitely say that it'll improve my CV and help me with skills that I wouldn't be able to have if I hadn't done a 200 miler and been exposed to what sleep deprivation feels like, in the fourth night when shit's not going according to plan.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so you come out of the other side of the race, everything's worked for you. How do you think it will change you?
It's a good question. I definitely think it'll change me in how I look at myself. I think whenever you do something hard, you take that memory and you use it in other parallels of life, whether that's, at work, for me at the office, or if I go through, a rough patch with a friend, and I know that I've gone through a 200 miler, it's easy to remind myself, Jarryd, you've done some hard shit. Just keep yourself together. I promise you, if you back yourself, you've gone and finished a 100 miler, you can finish this, or you can get through this challenge. So mentally, it will definitely give me more resilience. And then I think just from a physical standpoint, respecting my body more, just knowing that I've taken this body through hours of hurts and pain, and that it's possible. I think people say that it's very easy to make the impossible possible, but you only truly understand what that feels like when you've done it yourself.
Yeah. Okay. This question might be a bit preemptive now, but would you do it again? Are you planning to do it again already?
Yeah. You can ask me that after the race. I think it's very different to other disciplines of trail running. I think if I just look at some of the other races that I've done, don't get me wrong, I miss running uphill and, feeling that heart rate super high and having that taste of blood in your mouth and like watching over your back for guys behind you and taking a quick gel and just having to think very quickly and very having strong reflexes, where on the 200 mile and the 100 mile stuff, it's a lot slower. It's easy to get bored out there. It doesn't have that same stimulation as what a shorter race does. So it's different. I would never have not chosen to do a 200 miler, but I think certainly I wouldn't only want to do long stuff. I think it's nice to mix things up and, experience some of the other races. Just there's so many trail runs in South Africa, whether it's the Otsa race that's only 46 Ks or, doing something like the Mac. There's just so many opportunities, and like a 200 miler takes up a lot of time. And unfortunately, some of us don't have endless amounts of leave, so you kind of have to factor that in. But certainly, something that I would like to work towards is the Drakensberg Grand Traverse. I've done the mini traverse, and it was absolutely amazing. So tackling something like the Grand Traverse, and I was looking last night. There's another race, the one, what's it called, the Tusker, that goes through the reserve.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the international races as well. When we were at Mac training camp, Ilof was chatting to us about Tour. I mean, that's just an epic challenge in itself. Yeah, there's so many options out there, and you don't want to do all of them too soon. I want to enjoy the whole process, and without a doubt, after Mac, I'll cherish the moments and the memories for a very long time before I start laying my eyes on some new goals.
Yeah, good. That's a good balanced perspective. It's also that kind of coming to the box of sweeties and you kind of go, well, which one do I want to taste now? 200, 40, 50, all valid. Yeah, absolutely.
These days, people are challenging what the human body is capable of. You got to approach these runs with a bit of caution. Yeah, you got to be careful that you don't sort of overcommit, and that you enjoy the whole thing. Like, that's the most important thing, is that you enjoy it. You wanna be happy out there, and you want to enjoy the whole thing.
You got any advice for other guys who are first timers? Any advice for them?
It's not really. I mean, I'm also a first timer, so I'm going in there also with open eyes and open ears. But I think, yeah, enjoy it. Stay in the moment. Be present, and be easy on yourself. The person that wins a 200 miler is the person that has managed themselves the best. I would like to say they must not get carried away, but I have to be careful what I say, because I could be the guy getting carried away. I think we must just go and enjoy it. We've got 14 days today until the run. It's going to be awesome next week. I'm sure that the nerves will start building up. And before we know it, we're going to be there at Sabi looking at that start and finish line, and very asking ourselves, what the hell have we got ourselves into?
Well, I can tell you, 10 past 5, Jarryd, I'm somewhere between Maritzbos and the Mount Anderson split in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and that Mount Anderson split looks like it's quite a challenging one as well. So I'm sure we're going to be in a whole lot of hurt.
Yeah. Jarryd, thanks so much for sharing for your story. And I like your perspective. It's nice and balanced. And I think you're going to have a phenomenal run. I think you're going to just really enjoy it out there. Hopefully we all do. So I will see you on that start line.
Thanks for the opportunity and introducing me to many different trail runners. Mindful Runners it's certainly one of the best and biggest trail groups in Joburg, I think, in South Africa. And I've really enjoyed working with Marius and also being introduced to your knowledge as well. So I'm sure that we'll chat for a little bit at Mac, and I look forward to having a nice meal or cup of coffee. I don't drink. I can't say a beer after the race, but hopefully we come out on the other end in one piece.